Okay, it's recorded.
Ready?
You're welcome to the Discourse with Jimmy Disu this wet Sunday. You know, when the rains were falling, I said to myself, this looks a bit like a hurricane. And if you, knowing that I live in a high-rise building, I wasn't too sure whether I should go to the ground floor. I said, well, if I did go to the ground floor, the building might fall on me, so let me stay on top, you know, and see if I could swing with it. But thank God we didn't record any disaster. So here we are today. Today's Discourse with Jimmy Disu. Remember, the Discourse anniversary is round the corner. May 1, 1st of May, May Day. It's a public holiday. Starts 4 p.m. 4 for 4. 1.5 hours, the program is over. Then we'll have cocktails and maybe we'll have an after party. Invitations should be out, I think, next week. The jingles will start running. We have quite a few sponsors in now. Just last week, Moody Africa indicated his interest to participate with us. I think Idari Travels will provide a ticket to a West African country. We haven't concluded that. We're still talking to them. So there'll be prizes to be won at the raffle. Usually there's a raffle at the end of the program. And also remember that our guest will be Obi Ezekwesili, so she's going to be our special guest. We keep tweeting every day. She's anxious. She can't wait for that day to come. Neither can I. Right. So what happened last week? Very quickly. Last week we had, we still have this Ebola. As I speak, I haven't heard the government give us a real action plan to tackle Ebola. We had said, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, we had pleaded with the government, could you please set up emergency centers where people can go to if they have, if they show signs of Ebola, in Luth and whatever, just have emergency centers, and then say to the people, look, if you have the following symptoms, run to this emergency center and we'll take care of it, because I believe there are loads of people out there that might have Ebola. They are in the churches, they are in the traditional healers' homes because they can't afford to go to hospital. And believe you me, in a way, it's that social kidder that are most vulnerable, to this disease. As of Friday, what we heard in the news was that the health minister said that jingles had been were about to be approved. And I said to myself, look, it's more than jingles, but we'll leave that one to front page news on Monday, okay? Also last week, we had the Minister of Defense State, Senator Musilu. I don't know whether to call him senator or ambassador. He's been a senator, he's been an ambassador, lucky guy. He gave an explanation as to why he went to where the Lagos State government was building with soldiers. He said he's concerned, they're building it on under high tension wires, it's government land and so on. And I would just say to him, why don't you just stick to your portfolio, okay? And also know that wherever you go, it's a sensitive thing. Wherever you turn up with loads of soldiers, it's a sensitive thing. Indeed, I don't know why a minister should have soldiers guarding him. It's first and foremost a soldier before being that of Minister of Defense. So maybe it's now for the time for the government, because soldiers are not ideally in an ideal setting. They are not security people you should be seeing, in public that much, guarding this and guarding that. They are the last bastion of defense. But so we plead with Senator, yes, we understand your sensitivity. You said you just stopped by, but remember that every time you as much as raise a hand in public, you are the minister, it will be read any which way. But we leave him and his opposite number, Fashola, to sort themselves out on the political terrain. Okay. Also last week we had Femi Faniga visited the president, and there was so much hula balu, higi haga, and whatever. Okay. And my take is, Femi is a smart guy. There's certain things I can't say on radio, but he's hedging his bets. Because I don't believe, there are certain things I just don't believe will happen. One, I don't believe the APC would present a Muslim ticket. It just doesn't add up. Secondly, I don't believe any party would present a Buhari and Tinubu ticket. It doesn't add up. If you need to think deeply before you react to these things, it just doesn't add up. It's dead on arrival. And I don't believe that would happen. What I do know, or what I've been told privately by a few people close to Tinubu, is that he's not really interested in political office. He just wants to be a kingmaker and so on and so on. Though these things do change. But nobody in his right mind would put a Buhari and Tinubu in the same office. I mean, what do you think, sir?
It would be a great challenge.
You have to clear your throat to say that.
A great challenge.
Okay, that's my guess for today. We're coming to him. Okay, but so it's early days yet. It's early days yet, and I think we shouldn't get caught in a panic. Fani Fukarade knows the game he's playing, and he knows what he wants, and we all wish him luck. So that's as far as it goes. Then, of course, we had this. What has led us to today's discussion, the issue of GDP. You know, Nigeria's what do you call it? Is it sorry, sir?
Rebasing.
Rebasing is GDP. So I said to myself, there is only one man that I trust that is going to give me, or is going to give you at home. You should be thanking me for this opportunity. That is going to give you an unflawed view. I've followed him for so long. I respect him a lot. Not just because he's a renowned economist. We have loads of renowned economists here who are falling by the wayside. That's not the issue. But he's been very, very consistent in his analysis. Dispassionate, but he gives it to you as it is. The person I'm talking about is Dr. Henry Boyo. Simply Henry Boyo. But you see, what he doesn't know is that I know that we are both namesakes. His second name is Jimmy. His second name is Jimmy.
I'm in good company.
Yeah, good company. So for this exercise, I call you Jimmy Boyo. Except that some people won't understand. They won't know that it's you. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Now let's get down to business. Now, sit back and relax, because what you're going to get really and truly is you're going to be educated about what it's all about. You know, that's the essence of this program, for you to understand what all this thing is all about. Now, sir, what exactly is rebasing your GDP? What exactly? What does this thing? What's it all about?
Thank you very much, Jimmy. Very simply, rebasing in meaning is very similar to the accounting process of revaluation. In other words, in most instances, you can substitute the word revalue with the word rebase.
Rebasing. Okay, sir.
I think that simplifies it to the extent that you know that what you are now talking about is just an issue of value, changing the size of a particular value. In this case, we're talking of the collection of all output and services.
Okay.
That is the value of all goods and services produced in Nigeria in any 1 year. And what we are doing here, your program and Classic and everything, also is producing a service. And it is not surprising that in the new revaluation of all production and services in the country, the service subsector, which used to contribute possibly less than 30% before, now contributes close to 50% of the total value of goods and services produced in Nigeria. So rebasing of the GDP simply means a revaluation of all production in the country, production of goods and services in the country, compared with what it used to be in 1994. If you had, for example, a very simple basic factory that produces that used to produce in 1994 barely broomsticks or matchsticks or whatever, and within the last 24 years or thereabouts, it has extended its production to include not only telecoms also, but event management services, and also added a filmmaking arm that is called Nollywood into the bargain. These are activities that produce value which were not captured because probably they didn't exist in 1994, or they didn't exist in very significant, were not very significant in terms of value.
Okay.
Today, 2014, 24 years down the road, other things have come into place that we didn't have in 1994.
Okay.
And we have a rebased or revalued GDP of $510 billion.
Now, the question I want to ask is do you think that figure is close to the mark? Is it a justifiable figure?
Well, it's a fair enough figure, but having said so, one is constrained to conjure up figures without a base. So often my attitude is to question or to speak to the figures which government issues. In that wise, you wonder whether it is fairly accurate, because over the years, in the last 24 years thereabouts, there's been hardly a year that the growth rate of the GDP had fallen below 4 or 5%. We were often told we were 6, 7, possibly even 8% in some of those years. So if you took an average of 5% growth rate every year for 24 years, you'll be finding that you'll be expecting that total output as of 2014 should be about at least 120, 130% of what it used to be in 1994. In other words, instead of the figure of 260 something billion, which you had in 1994, you should be having close to 600 billion or more, not just 510 billion. So in that regard, I stand to be corrected that the current value may even be an underestimated value of all production of goods and services in the country, especially also when the Office of Statistics themselves admit that certain areas of the economy have still remained uncaptured.
How do you sorry sir.
Thank you.
You have a call. How do you reconcile this with the fact that a lot of your industries are dead? Well, okay, yes.
Yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of the industries are dead, but having said so, when some industries are dying, others are also coming up, particularly in the petrochemical area. At the same time that industries are dying, maybe the service industry is also growing. So you will, and in addition to that also, don't forget, value in our case is generally denominated universally in the, with the dollar. Consequently, if you also recognize that over the years, our dollar income has been increasing, has been improving significantly from time that we had just $10 to a barrel to now $110 per barrel and over 2 million barrels a day. Consequently, you can expect that a accumulation of all these other activities, including the increase in the price of crude oil over time in terms of value, you can expect that, yes, you can have a growing economy, but you may not have an economy that is growing in a manner that captures more and more of the people coming into the job market on an annual basis. So yes, you could have an increase in output, but the increase in output has not justified significant improvement in the level of unemployment, because the increase in output has, even at 5, 6, 7%, is much below what we should be aiming at. We should be talking of output growth rates average of about 10% annually. And this is possible. In fact, some people go as far as to say we are capable of 15% growth rate if all other things are equal. By all other things, you must recognize there has to be peace and harmony. At the same time also, your economy must be grounded on monetary principles, monetary and fiscal principles or strategies that are guaranteed to take us out of deepening poverty. And you might want to say, what are these principles or what are these strategies? Yes. You couldn't expect, for example, a country to grow if you had a situation where government itself is deliberately ensuring that cost of funds to the real sector will continue to be very high. You couldn't have an economy where you expect significant growth when government itself admits that it has been pursuing over the years a policy, curious policy, whereby it gives its money for free to the banks and then borrows it back the next day at 12, 13, 14, 15%.
I'd like you to explain that. I'd like you to, because that has been consistent with you, sir. You've always said this. Well, but I'd like you to put it in context.
Well, you're right. It's been consistent in what I have said for over 13 years, and it's very sad. It's regrettable that it took only last year for the governor of central bank himself.
Which one now? We have 3 governors.
Well, well, if we say the just suspended one, I think.
Okay, that'll be fair enough. Sanusi.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I must say, I commend his courage for coming out to say so. That can you imagine what we have been doing? We have been pursuing a monetary strategy that ensured or guaranteed that we gave money to the banks free of charge at 0% interest rate, and then we go back the very next day to borrow it back because we're afraid of excess liquidity. And I'm very surprised that none of the, what you might call the experts in the country, including professors of economics and people who should know, people of intellect, indeed anybody who has had secondary school education, I didn't hear a single protest to say, sir, for how long have you been giving our money free of charge to the banks?
To the banks, yes.
And how much has it cost us as a country on an annual basis? How much have we been subsidizing the banks? How many hundreds of billions do we give to the banks every year while we go and borrow it back? These are the things that would never guarantee that you would have inclusive growth, where you would have increasing job opportunities, where you would have industries that are expanding because they have access to funds at a very reasonable rate, not 23 or 24%. Indeed, no country can be identified to have grown its economy significantly and carried its people along when cost of funds to the real sector is 24% or thereabouts, especially when it is clear that it is government policy to keep interest rates high.
Okay, sir. If you're at home and you want to join us, you can tweet at us at Classic FM 973. You can send a text at 33973. You can go on our Facebook, facebook.com/Classic FM 973. Or you can call in at 0909-217-2973 or 0708-765-6030. Okay, if you're not careful, today's discourse will go into economics 101. So I want to bring it down back again because we have loads of people who are not that savvy in economics. So I'd like to bring it down to their level. Now, this issue of this GDP again, is it good news? I mean, what does it mean to the ordinary person? In terms of Naira and Kobo and standard of living, is it good news for the average Nigerian or for the Nigerian itself? What's the implication of it?
Well, it's good for you to be able to say, your father rides a bicycle, well, my father rides a Mercedes. It gives you some kind of kick. But at the end of the day, the import of your father riding a Mercedes is that your father also lives in a mud hut. Then you think you have to query the value that you attach to the Mercedes instead of maybe a much more social welfare-based, profit. Having said so, I think the issue of GDP rebasing is something that has to be done generally in every country from time to time. It gives you a basis for comparison of the size, the value, the components, the sectors, the vibrant sectors, the dying sectors in each economy. It's useful domestically for government to make its plans. It's useful externally for investors to be able to make comparisons between economies and decide whether or not it's of interest for them to come and invest in those countries. But having said so, the 510 billion revised GDP, as I've said, could be much higher, possibly 600 or even 650 billion if you adopted the average of 5% growth rate that we have been officially, which have been officially reported in the last 24 years every year. You should expect a much higher one. But even if it was much higher, and as I mentioned earlier on, the predicating monetary strategy is such that ensures that we will get poorer when we get richer, or a system that ensures that your own government borrows its own money back. I think this is a very serious problem for any economy. For any government to want to borrow its own money back and pay interest of 12, 13, 14, 15%. I don't think individually any one of us would take that line of action if we were managing our family resources. Neither would a corporate organization be proud to say that, oh, we put all our sales revenue in the bank, but when we need to spend any money, even to pay salaries or whatever, we go borrow money back from the bank at 12, 13, 14, 15%. I think that is a strategy that is guaranteed to run down an economy, not to grow that economy.
Okay. I think we'll take a short break now, so that we can dance a little, we can get you to relax a bit. What kind of music would you like, sir? We have discussed this before, but I'm asking you again.
Well, any kind of music that would cry out for liberation, freedom, anything like that, yes. We are really in, how would I say, a garrison economy.
We're in a garrison economy, yes. Or like my good Ebon would say, God bless his soul, my brother, we're in a Gestapo country. It's still the Discourse with Jimmy Disu. You can call in, not 9217 2973 07087656030. You can tweet at Classic FM 973. I've seen a few tweets come in. Some of them are very funny. Facebook.com/Classic FM 973, and then you can text at 33973. We'll take a short break. We'll listen to Redemption. Oh my God! We'll listen to Redemption song by Bob Marley. Wow.
Ready?
Yeah. Ready? Yeah, I see Lawrence has grown to like this song. In case you don't know, it's by Thelonious Monk.
I know that, of course.
You know that
I
is by
do
Monk.
know that, yes.
You're not a jazz Bob.
I am a jazz. Oh, no.
You are not a jazz
I
Bob.
love jazz music.
All right. Now, you're welcome back to the Discourse with Jimmy Disu. Some tweets are coming in. Is this a tweet or
Text message?
It's a text message, sorry. Where does it start from? It says, let me start from bottoms up. Mr. Boyo is simply brilliant, always has been and always will be. That's one of our listeners. Another asks, what is the relationship between this GDP figure and the standard of living of Nigerians? You get to answer that. Okay? There's somebody who has a worry. He said, Mr. Disu, my problem is that I never see you and your guests applaud federal government once. You always find fault in every policies. It means every policy. It seems you are the agent of APC. Mr. Boyo, are you an agent of APC?
I'm not a politician.
But you used to take APC when you were young for your headache.
I had to, because I worked for a company that produced APC.
That's the problem, one faces here. Some people think, I keep telling people, and now is a good time for me to explain to people that I'm not an activist, okay? I'm just a media analyst, and I analyze issues the way I see them as at the time that I'm being asked. Okay, fine. If it now looks as if most times I end up being critical of government, well, that's not my fault. If I think that what is wrong is wrong and what is right, I'm not going to be applauding anybody for doing a wrong thing. Or for that matter, making it. Mr. Boyo, I'm sure you agree with me. Part of the Nigerian habit is, if the minister is your friend or you're a contractor with them, you tend to put up some kind of defense that doesn't hold water. So you see a lot of that happen. And in fact, I was just going through the internet here, and there seems to be some comparison between you and certain economists, but we won't go there. We won't go there today. You were quoted as having made a remark about a friend of mine who's also an economist, but we won't go there. But these things, the truth is, people like Mr. Boyo and people like myself, we have to say things the way we see them. Am I right, sir?
I think you are 100% correct.
Yes, we can't. And what we just want, you see, it's a pity that younger people might not get a sense of this. I mean, I'm younger than Mr. Boyo, but I lived in this country when things were working. If I walked in 1974. okay, just as a young worker, and I know I had a rollicking good time as a clerk. Paid twice a month. I got to Dodgy.
Less than 1,000 naira a month, I guess.
Yes. I got to Dodgy. I didn't get Adebo. I'm sure you got Adebo.
No, the Adebo had been paid before I started working in 1975. But in 75, my salary was about 700 naira a month. And
yes.
I was qualified to have a new car by the company.
Yes, yes.
And the company gave me the money to buy the car. And within 3 years, I needed to change it again. That was the pattern. And I feel very sorry for the young people of this days because it's like a different world.
It's a different world entirely. Also, we have some tweets that are coming in. Mr. Disu, how can we... I've said I'm not going to read any shorthand. I'm not going to strain my eyes or rack my brain. He said, okay, let me have mercy on him. Ahmed Buhari says, Mr. Disu, how can we talk to our leaders for their wasteful spending and encourage small-scale businesses? It's tough, so keep that in mind. Femi Adegbemile says, a million thanks to Mr. Henry Boyo, but I'd like to ask why there's a dearth of real economic pundits in our country. And Richard Isedu, he looks quite young here, he must be in his 20s. He is asking specifically, Mr. Boyo, is the Nigerian unemployment problem redeemable? That is, Mr. Boyo, sir, is the biggest problem that I have with the young generation. Is there any way we can bring down these unemployment figures? Let's assume that we've gotten to a bus stop that we are headed in the wrong direction. Is there a way in which we can turn this thing around by your own, from your own thinking?
You want me to answer that?
Sorry, sir.
You want me to answer that?
Yes, go ahead. And the other questions,
Okay.
but quickly because I have loads of questions
Okay.
here. Yes.
The one that appears to be much more critical amongst the youth is definitely the issue of unemployment.
Unemployment.
Yes, unemployment can be addressed and can be successfully addressed, but it will not be addressed when government just throws money at it. Like, for example, your Sure P or You Win, these are all ways of wasting government money. And the government by itself is not expected to be the major creator of jobs. But government is expected to create an enabling environment that would make it easy for Jimmy Disu to set up 3 radio stations or television stations, as the case may be, for Lawrence to maybe even set up an entertainment company also. And when you do all this, you will automatically require to employ more hands and give more jobs. The enabling environment that you require to do this include the following. Of course, power, but power is also a great source of opportunity if properly handled. But having said so, there are economic indices which are required in governments all over the world if they need to be able to stimulate employment opportunities. For example, when you hear in the US or even in Europe that the government is trying to address a problem of unemployment, and unemployment there becomes crisis when it is 5, 6, 7, or 8%, not 23% like we have here. When they want to address what they call unemployment, they immediately do certain things. First of all, they ensure that the real sector would have funds, would have access to funds at reasonable rates. And by reasonable rates, you cannot be talking of 24% or 25% or anything.
No business can grow that. Yeah.
Absolutely. In these other countries that I have mentioned, they would reduce their own monetary policy rate even as low as 1% or even 1.5% in place of our own 12% here. 12% monetary policy rate ensures that the banks will not lend to the real sector at anything below 12%. That is why the lending rate is 23% to the real sector or thereabouts. Meanwhile, the government itself knows that high interest rates would not grow an economy and would not also provide jobs. Instead of bringing down interest rates or creating a structure that will bring down interest rate, the government itself decides to make sure that people do not access funds.
But sir, let me cut you there. Why is this? I mean, why is this happening? There must be a reason for it.
Well, the reason is very simple. The government does this because it fears that there is too much money in the system. And if people, including investors, are allowed access to the too much money in the system, this would lead to a situation where you had too much money chasing too few goods, and you would have inflation. And if you had inflation, it was supposedly be very bad for the economy.
Would you agree with me, sir? I'd like you to be honest with me. This is the feel that I sense. When we say there's too much money in circulation, and I read the papers every day, would you agree with me that 60% of this excess money in circulation is gotten through dubious means? It's corrupt money.
Well, I think you are looking at it from, how would I say it, a tangent that appears to be the common position, the common perspective of most people.
Yes.
I think the question you should be asking is, what creates the too much money? We should be asking the question, how come you say we have too much money in the economy, and yet this so much money is not available for development? It's not available to build schools. It's not available to build hospitals. It's not available to revamp our transport system. It's not available even to provide power. But at the same time, for over 25 years, the problem has always been we have too much money in the system.
Yes.
And because of this so much money that we have in the system, the government is instigated to do things which would ordinarily be described as very silly or unwise. For example, because of the too much money that they say they have in the system, they say they want to prevent inflation. In other words, there shouldn't be too much money chasing too few goods. So the thing to do is to reduce the size of this money in circulation, or that is available in the hands of the banks, so that people don't access it, people can't borrow it and spend it, and further fuel inflation. So the government goes in to borrow this money back, but that doesn't answer the question of how did the excess money come in the first place?
In the first place,
and
yes.
how is it that excess money is sustained, has been sustained all over the years, 25 years, there's so much money, there's surplus money, excess liquidity, and government is forced to go borrow it back. The interesting thing is that the excess money is itself created by government. Okay, and you might say, what are you talking about? How would government create excess money and then go borrow its own money back? Well, if you don't believe me, you have to believe the last central bank governor, who came out and said to the press, to the media, openly, without any hesitation, without any quibbles at all, that government has been borrowing its own money by giving its money at 0% to the banks and borrowing it back. Why do you think the banks are not interested in the real sector? They have this benevolent godfather that comes on Monday, gives them money to hold and say, keep it for me, I won't charge you anything for keeping the money. And the next day they come back and say, we want to borrow that same money back at 12, 13, 14, 15%. So long as you have that kind of situation, the banks would never look at the real sector, because at the end of the day, if even the banks wanted to make money, they're already making money, because government is borrowing its own money back from the banks at 12, 13, 14, 15%. Why would they want to go and give their money to this one co?
Mr. Boyo, sir. Mr. Boyo.
Yeah.
I have heard you say this now for close to 4 years.
Quite honestly, about 13 years.
well, I think you must have said it earlier, but it started catching my attention, seeing you on channels, okay? And then I'm asking myself, is it that nobody listens to you, or they think that you're wrong? What is, or is there any underhanded thing that might be going on that warrants these things?
Well, I'm surprised also that for 13 years there's been no formal government response.
Yes.
But I am, how would I say, happy. I feel vindicated by the fact that within those years, government officials have come out to confirm that what I have been saying.
The CBN governor, yes.
Not only the CBN governor, the deputy governor. I mean, various officers of government have come to say, yes, this is what we are doing. And the climax of it certainly was when Sanusi himself admitted last year that, look, what a wonderful business model for the banks to do.
I'm coming back on Sanusi, but we have a call. Oh, the call is gone. Oh, he's back. Okay, hello? Hello? Hello, it's the Discourse. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, my friend. How are you doing? What's your name?
I'm doing fine. My name is Benga Taylor.
Benga, hi. You caught us here. Yeah, quickly.
Yes. There is something that... good afternoon, sir. Dr. Boyo.
Simply Henry Boyo. Thank you, Benga.
Henry Jimmy Boyo.
Thank you.
You must always have that Jimmy because... yeah, go on.
Okay, there is a point to make, and that is that the rebasing, if you look at this, from the analysis you made, that what we have should even be more than what the government announced. Now that I'm not an economist, I'm a surveyor. But the point I want to bring out is if you have gone through the report of, let's say, economics, as in the economics magazine, the BOA, as in the way they capture it, there is this mocking issue about what has been produced and what has been announced. What do you say to that? With respect to the fact that you said international communities and international investors look at this report, and I know that the economic, the BBC, and some of the mainstream media, that this international investor watch out for, in accessing some of the information that will be needed to come to the local ground, to have the business on. So, because I've read it, and there's this mocking issue about our rebasing, so to say.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You get to answer his question, but I want to also take these. What he's saying essentially, did you hear him well, sir? Okay, but what he's saying essentially is that it looks as if the Western world is not impressed by the. But I think a lot of Nigerians too are not impressed because it doesn't improve the standard of living. If anything, things are worse than they normally should be. But we have some tweets there. No, this one's a text. I keep mixing them up. This one says, "Good afternoon, everybody." It says hello. The revalued GDP is an achievement that this government or anyone should celebrate in the face of provocative unemployment levels in this country. I don't know, because these short-term things, I don't know what he's saying, so I'll disregard that. Hello, Mr. Disu. Nigeria's economic problem is structural. Dearth of infrastructure makes cost of doing business relatively expensive, which justifies the higher interest rate charged by banks. Suffice to say, lower risk of doing business begets lower interest rates by banks. This is by Oye. I have another one. Mr.
Jimmy, sorry, can I just intervene on that particular one? I like the way it says lower risk should breed lower interest rates, okay?
Yes.
What would he consider
to
be the risk of lending to the Nigerian government? Would that be a higher risk or lower risk? Because, you see, lending to government everywhere in the world is considered to be a risk-free investment. Because it is risk-free, interest rate is supposed to be 1% or something. So why should our own government, as a government that is borrowing, why should they be paying 12, 13, 14, 15% when there's absolutely no risk?
Do you think something underhanded might be going on?
I don't know how to answer that question, but whatever, honestly, but whatever it is foolishness to do that type of thing. I mean,
okay.
At the end of the day.
Okay, I have another, somebody's, my defense here. It says, Mr. Disu, forget all those detractors calling you agents of APC. That's for me, sir. It says, let them answer a simple question. Are we okay the way things are? Don't you deserve better than this? This is from Uche. Uche, thank you very much. Let's go to Twitter's. Let's go to Facebook. On our Facebook, we have Namulema Oliver. It says, thanks for the show. Okay, that's fine. Gabriel Willem Onoja says, good day. I hope you know the meaning of GDP. Listen to what he says. He says it means generator-dependent people.
Yes,
that's the meaning in Nigeria. I like William Onoja. He's a good poet. Generator-dependent people. Afolabi Olayinka Joseph says, Mr. Jimmy, please help me ask your guest what exactly determines the increase in the GDP of the nation. He's already answered it because we don't have time to keep going back. You came late. You spent half the time watching football, and I just jumped in. Okay, so sorry, Afolabi Joseph. This interview will be up on my blog, hopefully by tomorrow morning. You even get to see the video of it, so you can then ask the question then. Okay, Ade Fashaki says, good afternoon, Jimmy and guest. Two questions. Why exactly have we pursued the strategy of putting money in banks as zero investment and then raise it? That question has been answered. This is another person to be watching football. It's another person. Then he says, second question, why has it been so difficult to bring down inflation all these years, for decades now? During which period Japan's have been near zero? That's what Ade Fashaki says.
The answer is very simple. Excess liquidity. And you still haven't asked me how the excess liquidity comes up. You know what the Yorubas call Agbomagbe?
Yes.
We used to have a bank called Agbomagbe.
Yeah, that was owned by Dr. Doyo Kukwe's dad. You know, Doyo Kukwe said last week that he'd never known poverty in his life, and that his dad owned the bank. He posted that on Facebook.
I didn't know you posted that. Anyhow, the point is, Agbomagbe means, never say dry kind of...
see never dry.
See never dry kind of wealth. And we never wonder, why is it that excess liquidity that causes the high interest rates. Never mind what they tell you about, because of infrastructural deficits and things like that. Simply, excess liquidity is the main instigator of high interest rates. And high interest rates is the main instigator of reduced industrial enterprise in Nigeria. And reduced industrial enterprise in Nigeria is the main reason why there is less employment opportunity. There are less employment opportunities in Nigeria. And it is also excess liquidity that makes it necessary for government to borrow its own money back, and for government to borrow when it does not need to borrow, and make that kind of strategy a policy framework, because it does that on the international level as well as the domestic level. On the domestic level, it borrows money it doesn't need at 12, 13, 14% in order to debar and keep the real sector away from the funds that is in the system. On the external front, it also borrows money it doesn't need, because, for example, we have reserves of $40 billion, which are also idle, just as like our own government's domestic deposits are idle, but you are still prepared to go borrow $1 billion, $2 billion with at a cost of about 7, 8, 9%, whereas your own external dollar reserves are earning little or no yield at all. So you find that it is a policy, it is a strategic policy framework to ensure that we borrow what we don't need, and we borrow at a rate that does not that is not justified by the fact that it is a sovereign risk debt, and we borrow because we want to make sure that the banks do not lend to the real sector. They all seem negative, but that's the truth. Nobody has controverted that, and indeed nobody can, because that is the reality. That's the true face of reality. And no economy grows under these indices. But what then creates the excess liquidity? And what creates excess liquidity is the substitution, the capture of the dollar earnings of our country every month, and the substitution, the unilateral determination of an exchange rate, and the ultimate substitution of naira supply in place of the dollar revenue. Consequently, you have a situation that we would get as a country poorer the more dollars that we earn. And again, this is not Henry Boyo saying this is the evidence on the ground. When we had $4 billion, for example, in 1996, we presumably should have been a very poor country, okay? Yes. But we were a very rich country with $4 billion worth of reserves. That is when I was telling you the time you could have maybe buy a new car for 12,500 naira, or thereabouts, and the companies would accept your checks without even cross-checking or confirming. So you find that we were richer, or we were more socially better endowed when we had $4 billion compared with when we had $60 billion. When we started having $60 billion reserves, we started being listed amongst the poorest nations in the world. So you can see the correlation. The more dollars you earn, the poorer you become. And why? Because the more dollars we earn, the greater is the problem of excess liquidity when the central bank unilaterally determines an exchange rate and creates and supplies naira into the market. So the more dollars you earn, the more naira that will have to be supplied when CBN captures the dollar and substitutes the naira. And then you have excess liquidity. And when you have excess liquidity, the CBN is forced to go back into the market and borrow the money back and say, we don't want this too much money in the market. And they are prepared to pay 12, 13, 14% for those monies, in spite of the fact that they had put it there as 0% in the first place. But they are prepared to bid high for the money in the system so as to prevent the real sector or any other person indeed from accessing it and spending the money and inducing inflation. So you find that, if anything, you have to pray to God and say, God, please don't let us earn more dollars, because the more dollars we earn, no, truly, I mean, this is it's
like getting drunk. On
absolutely, because the more dollars you earn, the poorer you become.
Well, let me ask you. I've said I would ask you two more important questions. You have to ask. You have to answer in 10 minutes. The first one is, what was your immediate and subsequent reaction to Sanusi's removal? Is he what you would call a central bank governor you would expect to? Is he somebody you would, or would you say that he's been a very good central bank governor, and so on and so forth? Yeah.
How could I say Sanusi, Soludo, and even the Sanusi before them, both of them? How could I say they are good central bank governors when they have all without exception, indulge in giving Nigeria's money at 0% to the banks and borrowing it back. When they
but this Sanusi blew the whistle. You said, sir, that Sanusi himself admitted it.
Absolutely, but that doesn't make it, you don't celebrate somebody who say, oh, I've been foolish for so long. I mean, that type of thing. Especially when that foolishness impacts negatively on your own welfare, and to him, there's no cost whatsoever. He has willingly, and indeed, there's no likelihood that the new central bank governor will either change that procedure because he's coming from the same constituency.
Is it the responsibility of the central bank or the responsibility of the finance ministry, the coordinating ministry for the economy? Who determines these things?
What things?
The policy about giving the money to the banks, borrowing them back at 12% and so on and so forth. Who does that? Is it the central bank?
Before the Central Bank Act of 2007,
okay,
the Minister for Finance, we didn't have a coordinating Minister for Economy at that time. The Minister for Finance is supposed to be able to define the direction of fiscal and monetary policy. And the central bank was supposed to establish its own strategies that would ensure that its objectives were in tandem with the government's policies. But with the Central Bank Act of 2007,
okay,
the central bank governor assumed powers that did not truly belong to it. And you started finding, if you observed in various arena, when the Minister of Finance and the central bank governor appeared together, there didn't seem to be unison in their positions, and this shouldn't be so. There should have been more, how would I say, cohesion in their positions in public. But usually, this one, for example, you have a government policy that wants to expand business, that wants to expand employment opportunities. In order to expand the employment opportunities, ideally, the monetary policies of the central bank should also be subservient to that desire to expand these opportunities. And in order to be subservient, interest rates would have had to come down. But while the government is saying we want to expand employment opportunities and create more wealth and create more production, the central bank, on the other hand, because of its high interest rates, is making sure that that will never happen. So you can find that they are both working at cross purposes.
Cross purposes.
It shouldn't be so. The question you should probably also be asking is that, does the central bank have the right to change to substitute the dollar earnings for naira? Of course, the central bank doesn't have that right, according to Section 162 of the Constitution, especially knowing fully well that the objective of the central bank is to create an enabling environment that would engender industrial growth and development.
Okay, so we have a last caller because we have just 5 minutes to go. I want to give him yes, who's calling, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, Jimmy. You have Chiflari on the line.
Okay, sir.
I'm so happy with your guest now, especially the reference concerning the independence and the madness in the Act, Central Bank CBN Act of 2007.
Yes, sir.
And it's one of the major problems we have.
Okay, sir.
You made mention about, I think, basically concerning the GDP, what we saw. I think it's just a creation of those that are upset, with the bad development in the government of Jonathan, because common sense has that they just try to make a mountain out of a molehill, that with the entrance into the economy, basically the GDP has to increase, because there are so many entrants. You are talking about the aviation sector, the health sector, healthcare, the manufacturing sector, the agriculture and the entertainment, inclusive Nollywood and music. But then you see over the maritime sector, they are crying foul that they were not even recognized on the GDP, just like your guest, rightly asserted that I think the 509 billion estimation is even an underestimated, data. But
okay,
I think it's most unfortunate that we have some certain characters, that are always finding fault with anything that they perceive that a good development by the government, but it's not supposed to be so. So he's right with the final assertion he made about Sanusi. Even if Sanusi recognized that particular something, but Sanusi was the most guilty among all the central bank governors we have, whereby he sold Oceanic Bank for 50 billion. Then how much did he need to Access Bank, to improve the system of Oceanic? So these are the issues we have. We have a lot of people in the system that want to sabotage the system and destroy the system. That is the right.
Thank you, Chief Larry.
You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Chief Larry. And we have just... would you want to react to what he said very quickly? Because we have just 5 minutes to go. In fact, we have 3 minutes to go.
Well, the reality is that my last word is very simple. Don't let anybody deceive you that the economy can grow when your own government is giving money at 0% and borrowing it back at 20-something%.
Okay.
The issue of whether it is the cash reserve ratio of government deposits are being sequestered 75%, it's neither here nor there. It's further deceit because it doesn't work that way. That can only work if you assume that money allocated to government will remain stagnant, will not be spent. The moment government starts spending the money, it pays its workers, it pays its contractors, the money filters back into the private sector, and you're back to square one.
Very quickly, sir, before you go, I have to ask this question. The budget has just been passed. In just 2-3 minutes, can you give me a summary of your own reaction to the budget of 2014?
Well, I feel very sad, really, because fundamentally the budget is defective. It's defective in the sense that it encourages, or how would I say it, it would definitely induce borrowing, in spite in spite of the fact that we also still have a surplus, because the Minister of Finance was saying that she would ensure that we have a surplus. You couldn't have both a surplus and a deficit existing side by side.
No.
So you now have a situation where the budget is defective ab initio. It has already created an opportunity for government to borrow money it does not need. It has already created an opportunity for government to push up interest rates because it wants to borrow money it does not need. It has definitely created a situation that will make it difficult for interest rates to come down and for the real sector to thrive. It has created an opportunity for more money to be diverted to the payment of subsidies of about 2 trillion or 3 trillion, when in fact you should be selling fuel with an added sales tax rather than a subsidy, if only you ensured that instead of government or central bank substituting dollars or naira for dollar, central bank actually paid dollar certificates. So if central bank paid dollar certificates, what you would have, Jimmy, is a reverse of all these negative tendencies. Immediately you'd find what? Interest rates would come down because there's no excess liquidity to be mopped up. You would find that as a result of that, the naira will strengthen because what? There's not so much naira chasing to a few dollars. What would happen as a result of that? You would almost eliminate subsidy if the naira, for example, became something like 80 naira. In fact, you would eliminate subsidy if the naira is 80 naira to a dollar. You would also additionally do what? You would create more money in the pockets of the workers of Nigeria, because suddenly if naira is 80 naira to a dollar, the 18,000 naira minimum wage is just about $110, suddenly will buy $220 worth of goods. I mean, you know, you would in fact be transferring wealth from the hands of the rich and wealthy who maybe have accessed these funds as a result of the subsidies which government has in place to provide this kind of largesse. But at the end of the day, the money would come to the pockets of the poor. And when the poor spend money, they would also create demand by that expenditure, and the economy would grow. Until we do that, anybody who tells you that our economy would grow and become a world-class economy, that person is definitely deceiving you.
Now, look, final question. You know, this is like who wants to be a millionaire. That's your final answer.
Final
Okay. Now, very good. Have you ever been consulted either by the government or any of these political parties that is trying to lay its hands at the center? Have you been consulted by any?
No, I haven't, and I didn't expect I would, because my solution does not assist them you know, in the manner that they would want. Indeed, in 2002, a friend of mine, Mr. Ojo Michael, and myself made a paper, and we submitted to the National Economic Intelligence Committee in Abuja. And they were very impressed by the solution that we proposed. They had no objection. But we waited for about 6 months and we didn't hear from them. So we sent copies of our paper to Mr. President, who was President Obasanjo at that time, Soludo, Ubio Zekwesili, the Finance Minister, Okonjo Iweala, Mansa Mukhtar, the other one of the finance, I mean, you know, and to so many other people within government, including several senators and committee chairman members, you know. And when we got back in touch with the National Economic Intelligence Committee and said, why haven't you, returned to us on this issue? They said, well, they are aware that we have sent copies of our paper to the government, so they are waiting to be consulted before they would react. And that was in 2002. Could you imagine, Jimmy, if we had started doing the right thing since 2002, you would not be talking of a GDP base of 500. You're talking of about maybe even a billion dollar, what do I call it? $1 trillion worth of GDP, which would have an impact, because why? In that wise, you would not have been carrying the burden of excess liquidity for 20-something years. You would not have had government borrowing its own money back at 12, 13 and hoping and telling people that we are on the road to paradise kind of thing. It would never have happened.
Okay, so we have to get out of it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's been nice having you. We have to get out of it. I want a promise from you that you'll be back again here before the end of the year.
If you invite
I'll drag you in. I'll drag you in because we're going to have to talk a lot about this petroleum issue, the subsidies and the electricity. Those two issues, I'll drag you back in. It's been nice having you, Mr. Henry Jimmy Boyo.
Thank you very much.
I love the Well, it's been the Discourse with Jimmy Disu. You can catch, if you missed part of it, you can catch it on the Classic website, classic97.net, or on my blog, jimmydisu.com. Go register your email on my blog so you can get regular emails from me on a daily basis. Don't forget the Discourse anniversary is around the corner. The invitations will be out hopefully by the end of next week. And it's going to be by invitation only, 4 p.m. for 4 p.m. Obviously, Chrisily will be on the hot seat, and we're going to have a real ball. But Monday, don't forget front page news. Don't forget front page news Monday to Friday. Just don't touch that dial. Okay? Afrologic is around the corner, just around the corner. I think it's going to open the door any minute from now, and it's going to treat you to loads and loads and loads of Afrobeat. I usually say Afrologic is a moving encyclopedia on Afrobeat and jazz. So go out there, have a lovely week, and I hope to see you. Next Sunday, I might have a surprise guest for you. There will be no promo. Just know that next Sunday, you're going to have a guest that you never thought would be a guest on this program. Okay? So go out there and have a ball, and we'll see you again. And happy... What's today? Today is Palm Sunday. Oh, next Sunday is Easter Sunday, so we'll get a treat ready for you. Bye.